Okay, I'm going to just get started and just start with a reminder of why I'm doing these lives. I'm doing this Library of Life live series talking about different topics, and expungement and sealing was a topic that people had requested. And I want to really jump into it. And actually, after doing some reflections, everything that I'm talking about is things that I experienced myself. So I did have to actually go through an expungement and sealing for myself. And it was from something that happened when I was 18, 19. And I didn't even honestly realize that it was still showing up on my background until um, maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I transitioned from probation officer to therapist. I was getting my license in Indiana. I was already a licensed therapist in Illinois. And when I was getting my license in Indiana, because everything I do in Illinois, I do in Indiana. I do in Indiana. My background had popped up that I had a record from when I was in high school. So I was 18 my senior year. And um, honestly, I got caught stealing, and I had it was still on my record, but this whole time I thought it was off my record, and it was holding me back. So I had to just submit the paperwork. It was really easy for me. I did it myself. But some cases are more complicated depending on when it happened, what was the offense, things like that. So I'm just going to talk about it. And once again, if you have any questions, you can always leave the questions in the I'll say the YouTube website after the live, and I'll be able to see it. But all the things that I'm talking about and discussing will be available later on. So I just really want to talk about the difference between expungement and sealing, because it is a difference between expunging something off your record and sealing something off your record. Expungement typically means to destroy or erase a criminal record as though it never occurred, for many public purposes. Sealing means restricting access to a record. The record still exists, but it is hidden from much of the public. And that's what was happening to my case. Like, it was sealed, but it wasn't expunged. And I needed it to be, well, I wanted to be expunged, even though it was like so many, a lot of different agencies and organizations only look at or go back 7 to 10 years, but some people will go back more than that. And that's when you need to get things expunged, I'll say, or possibly sealed. But when you seal a record, certain agencies like law enforcement, courts, licensure boarding, can still see it. And maybe that was a reason, but I needed it to get expunged because the licensing board of social work was able to see that record, and I had to get it expunged because honestly, it was supposed to be expunged anyway, but it wasn't. And I actually, once my case was expunged, I did receive the original documents and files from that case in the mail. I received my original arrest records, all of that. So once you get something expunged, you will receive the records of that expungement. And once again, if you have any questions on expunging or sealing, let me know. But also, the laws do vary by state. Some states have a waiting period depending on the offense. Certain offenses qualify while some don't. The cost varies by state and things like that. Um, but it's agencies, it's so many agencies. And I really had connected with Cabrini Legal Services. Is really a popular, very known agency that does help, but that is an agency located in Illinois. But you can go to your local court offices, and they have like these libraries, and they have legal services there that can steer you in the right direction. And with all these lives that I'm doing, I always gonna say the thing that has gotten me the furthest in life is closed mouths don't get fed. And honestly, I didn't talk about this on the credit repair, but a lot of times the banks can help, all these different things. The last live that I'm going to have is going to be resources in general. When I was trying to work on my credit, I was already doing the steps, doing my own research. My bank offered free credit repair. Wells Fargo, I was with Wells Fargo. They offer credit repair programs. And the woman was like, wow, everything you're doing is what she was going to tell me to do anyway. And I think I mentioned last week, if you have Medicaid or insurance, the gym membership is covered. But we're going to talk more about that. Today is all about expungement and sealing. And I just want to talk about some myths that a lot of people have on expungement and sealing, just so I can clear some things up, because it is a lot of misinformation out there. Once again, I did say the laws vary state by state, but a common myth: expunging or sealing a record means nobody can ever see my record again. That is definitely a myth. Many expungement and sealing laws will still allow certain governmental agencies, courts, law enforcement, or licensor boards, or in immigration cases, still access to those records. So you really have to do your research and things like that. If it's not something really major, I would go to one of those. I would do it myself, honestly. And if you need help, go to one of the agencies, or case management services even have it. And actually, like Catholic charities, like, go out and just ask for the help. But depending on the state, the type of conviction that it is, or the rest, whether the record is a conviction or a non-conviction, all of those things play a factor if in how the record is expunged or sealed. Also, another common myth is, if I seal or expunge my record, I can legally say I've never had a conviction or arrest. Sometimes this is true in many states, especially public and private employers, housing, etc. You could say, no, I've never had a conviction or arrest, but not always under oath. Like if you're doing something like that, a certain job, like the FBI, it depends on the type of job you're applying for, but you will know that because it'll tell you to disclose, have you ever had any of your background expunged or sealed? That's when you'll know that you need to, they're going to basically ask that question. But legals and licensing forms will say that. That's what so you will know if you need to say yes or no with that. And also a common myth is, and this is what's going to tie into the storytelling, this will fix everything. If I expunge and seal my records, my life will go back to how it was before. That's not true, not fully anyway. And that's what any of these things, because it goes beyond that. And sometimes having a record, it does still, depending on the offense and the arrest, it just sometimes have a stigma. It doesn't matter if it was expunged or sealed, because sometimes it may have been an article or something written on you, and those things don't go away. But also, I'll say too, experiencing arrest or having to go through that, it can be traumatic. I have clients who I work with who are actually going through that, and even some want to be a part of the whole process, like going to the court and making sure, and they wanting to see and experience it themselves, and it gives them anxiety. You still have to do the work beyond just getting something expunged or sealed. Same with credit. People think if I get the 800 credit score, my life is going to be perfect and everything is going to be okay. These things are not true. Even starting a group home, that's why it's really important to know yourself and what is the reason why you even want to go through this, because sometimes it can be extreme and long, depending on once again, the offense, the waiting period, and all of that. So sometimes it's not. In my case, mine was super easy. I didn't even go to court. I signed the waiver but I was over the phone. But I wasn't in court, and I didn't have an attorney. I didn't have anything. I did it once again all myself. Yeah, like I said, it's trauma, shame, stigma, all of that things that are still associated with having whatever offense or record that may come about. And another common myth is everyone qualifies, it's just paperwork. And I'm laughing because I was in this, I had attended this event this weekend, and they were talking about it's just paperwork. And he was talking about a lot of times, this is really off topic, but once again, it all kind of relates. he was talking about a lot of people say like marriage is just paperwork, but so is getting your driver's license. So is applying for school or college, buying a house. Those are paperwork things. But when it's stuff that can really impact our lives, like marriage, because marriage can impact our lives for the greater or sometimes for the worse. But it's up to you when you're choosing. Like even with this process, it is just paperwork, but it does take time, knowing what qualifies, what doesn't, and just actually just going and walking to these places. And I'm going to send you guys resources. I'm going to have all of those resources available, and I'm working to get case managers on my staff to help people for free to do this. And also I'm going to if legal services already out there that's doing this for free as well. But yeah, it can be, the paperwork can be complicated, but sometimes they just make things complicated like this. Just like with the credit repair, things are intended to deter you. A lot of people feel like if it seems too complicated, I don't want to do it. If it's too much work, but this is your life. And why you're doing it. If your reason is so you can be better for your kids or create something different, just know your why. So you can, I'm gonna do this paperwork. I'm gonna do what I gotta do to do this for my family. Another common myth I'll say is it doesn't matter if people see my old record, I'll just explain it. Well, in my case, it did matter. I wouldn't be able to be a licensed therapist if I had that record. So I needed to get that off. So it really depends on what you want to do. And like I said, your why. Because for me, I needed to have a clean record to be a licensed therapist, to be able to provide therapy services. So I needed to do it. And once again, you guys can drop questions at any time. I'm looking. But also, telling the story may require too much information. So just being like, I don't care what's on my record. Once again, it does depend on who you are and what type of field you're working in. And I work in a field of mental health, and it's very, I'll say, if I want to get paid for it and help the people I want to help, which most of my clients are Medicaid or free, I needed to have this license because I wanted to make it accessible for my clients. So once again, it matters, because sometimes depending on what you want to do and sometimes where you live, your record can keep you from affordable housing anyway. You can't have a record for a lot of houses that are affordable rent wise. But there are lots of websites, guides, statutes that has to take place. And it's so many, I'll say, agencies out there that's willing to help. Once again, I'm going to leave those in the resource tab. I'm really just trying to see and wait for you guys to see if anybody has questions about expungement and sealing. I guess I can just mention some. And a lot of my stuff that I know is Illinois, but when I was doing my expungement, my case and my arrest happened in Indiana. But once again, like I said, I didn't even have to go to court. I was able to be on the phone, and I had to get my record expunged because a lot of stuff that happened before the age of 18 or when you were in high school is supposedly automatically sealed, but in a lot of cases it's not. And law enforcement licensing agencies, once again, is what I was doing, getting my license to be a therapist, can still see those records even if they're sealed. So and sealing is more easier, but expungement is more impactful depending on what you want to do. So if you get something sealed, a landlord wouldn't be able to see that. But if you need it for licensure or a government job or something like that, you need to get it expunged. But the Restoration of Rights Project, that's an organization you can look at that can help with getting your records, and everybody can obtain their records too. You can look and see what's on your records. You can do a public record search on yourself, or you can go to wherever you live, the local police department, and get your records. And honestly, even if you don't live in that city, because I don't live in a city where not a lot, I didn't have a lot of arrests, only 2, but maybe 3. But you can get your records anywhere, even if you're not living in that state anymore. But once again, Illinois has the Cabrini Legal Services, the Illinois Restoration of Rights. It's so many different places, but the place I would start at is your local county court building. They have legal services, and those legal services will help you get your expungement or sealing started. Yeah, Lisa, in Indiana, South Bend, once again, I'll go to the legal services department within the court building. But I'll definitely help you along with that, with your case management. I'll help you, walk you through that, and make sure your record, it doesn't take that long either. If you know the right steps to take, honestly, mine happened in less than 30 days. And I got mine expunged. And I didn't even go to court. But once again, I have a client, hers was less than 30 days, that I literally just started working with. Well, she's my last newest client I got, which was like in March. But she had her court date. She was nervous. And what I said, a lot of people do have some nervousness about it because it's a lot of myths and untrue things out there. But honestly, it's not that complicated. Once again, sealing is easier. Expunging is a little more, but neither one does take that long. And it's a lot of agencies that help with that. You can literally Google the local agencies that will help. And I just wanted to talk about, once again, connectedness with your story. It definitely can deter you from what you want. A lot of businesses, people don't know that when you're starting a business, because this library of life is to get you to where you want to be. So even when having a background can hinder you, even though it shouldn't, but the reality of life is it does hinder you to get a lot of things that you need in this life. When you're starting your own businesses, a lot of licensures come into place. And when I was saying those licensing boards, they can see those records, and you need to get it expunged because it will hold you back. And once again, a lot of the records that we have, I'm gonna just say in my community, it's like I said, mine was some stealing, petty stuff, or even the fighting. It's just and most of our cases happened before we were 27. Honestly, mine did, before our brain was even developed. But all my cases happened before I was 19. So it was even easier for me to get my record clean. But the cases that did happen after like 18 or 19 or even 27, they are a little bit more challenging. And sometimes the judge will be asking you, what are you doing and why do you want this? Like if you do have to go to court, why do you want this record expunged? Because that's how it can be. I've been in court, and that's what I'll say a judge will ask, and that's why I said know your why. 13 years ago, when I first started the live, I was saying how my record, I didn't even know that I technically had a record, because a lot of companies only go back like 7 or 10 years, but some go back more than that. And sometimes some people don't look at your childhood records. Like I was saying, they start at a certain age, but some do. And when I was becoming licensed to be a therapist, the licensing board in Indiana did look at my record, and that's why I had to get it expunged so I can get my license, because nothing was stopping me from being a therapist, and I had to do that. And that was like 5 years ago. I became a therapist 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I went through this process of getting my record expunged myself, and I did all the paperwork. I literally called the court myself. I said, what do I need to do to get this expunged because of XYZ? I'm trying to get my license. And I literally told them exactly that's how simple things can be. That's why I keep telling y'all, closed mouths don't get fed. Ask for the help that you need. Know your why. It's deeper than just getting your record expunged. Why are you getting your record expunged? Because in knowing your why, when you talk to people are more likely to help you when they understand why and what you're doing. So I called and I asked them what I had to do. She told me exactly what I needed to do, write a letter, and even write a letter to explain, to waive my appearance in the court, and I was just on the phone. Like, just call, because every court and county and state is different. In every situation is different, depending on the events, depending on the time, all of that things matter. And that's why it's harder to give a lot of too much detail, because once again, each state's differ. But every court building, they have a legal library, legal services, all of that. And the best way you can start is going to your local court office and go to the clerk's office and ask them, and they'll lead you to the right direction, honestly. And if you get somebody with an attitude, because sometimes you're going to get people, like, everything is not going to be smooth. Sometimes when you working on yourself, life is going to throw you limits. And really, it's God saying, how bad do you want this? And I've said this too, like, we'll stay in these relationships too long, and when you're ready to walk away, boom, you pregnant. And now God is like, how bad do you really want what you just said you wanted? Or when you ready to start your business, and boom, you walk in your job to quit, and they say you promoting, you got this money, you gonna get this big raise. But how bad do you want your business? How bad do you want your record to be expunged? Or how bad do you want your credit to be repaired? Or how bad do you got to know what you're doing this for? Because if it's just for a little bit of time, just for you to say, okay, I got an 800 credit score, for what? To mess it up again? Like, or to what? Get another record? Because people do that. Like, and I'm gonna just talk about it, because a CPN is not illegal. People get a CPN, what, just to mess up another number? Like, what are you doing this for? And that's why I'm giving all this information out there, because I don't want to keep giving it all out there just for you to do it again. Like, if you're doing this for your family, so you can give them something, or to start your business, because once again, a lot of times when you're becoming an entrepreneur and you trying to get these licenses, like, I know a lot of people trying to get into the restaurant business, trying to get a food truck business, or trying to work with kids, you don't need a license. And in order to get a license, you got to have a clear background, because that's where funding and things like that. I may be doing a live on grant to fund your businesses. Nothing out of pocket. You have to clear your record, and this is what I'm saying. This is a start. But yeah, look up the local legal aid organizations in your community. It's a lot of them. They're free. It doesn't cost anything to do this, and literally I did it myself, and you can too. But if there's any other questions or anything like that, and once again, I'm going to be putting so much more details and information out there for free, so it's always going to be available. And if you have any questions, you can answer them. I mean, you can leave them on the YouTube link after the live, so it'll always be there. And if anybody has any other questions, they can ask too. It's hard for me to say if nobody asks, and it's me talking for myself, so I don't need to make this longer. But I'll wait to see if there's any more questions about this. And if I'm talking loud, fast, I'm sorry. I just want to get the information out there and be done with it, because I know a lot of people who use it, and they use the information, and it's really making a difference. And I'm happy with everybody who is utilizing what I'm putting out there, because it can literally change your life and your kids' life and your parents' life, your grandparents' life, your cousins' life. We don't know. I don't know how many people I'm helping. And that's the thing that people have been saying, like, you don't know how many people you're impacting. And you doing the work for yourself, you don't know how many people you're going to be impacting. Because when I was doing the expungement, when I was doing a credit repair, when I was buying my house, when I was starting my podcast, writing my book, I didn't know that I was going to be using what I experienced to help other people. So you learning this and doing what you need to do for yourself, it's really going to help people, because you can share your story. But yeah, if anybody have questions, like I said, leave them in the chat and I will answer them. But I'm excited that I just did this, because I really didn't know. I really wanted the Carbini legal services to be on live, but they wasn't able to. And I really want to just keep going with this. I don't want to keep waiting. I want to just get the information out there. And once again, I will be writing a free ebook that I will be giving out to everybody about all these different resources and different agencies that I know and I trust. Because I'm not giving y'all anything I wouldn't buy. I'm not willing to sell anything I'm not willing to buy. So yeah. I'm just going to wait a little bit, and then once again, I will leave the resources and information after I finish this entire live. All the information will be out there. In the last live will be on resources in general, housing, life insurance, because you can get free life insurance. I have 2 free $25,000 life insurance policies for free. And honestly, when my father passed away, because I got him signed with that, he had a free $25,000 life insurance policy. Everybody in the United States should have a free $25,000 life insurance policy. I've told everybody about it. I don't know who signed up. It's through Navy. For any credit union gives you a free $25,000 life insurance policy. And I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about really all the resources I wasn't able to talk about and the ones we were able to discuss, but just giving you guys overall, just all resources, everything. So I'm excited about that. We have relationships coming up on Wednesday. All relationships, the most important relationship with yourself. And I have a special guest, Jeremy, joining on Wednesday, and I'm really excited about that. We're going to also be talking about relationships and therapy, couples therapies, of course, family therapy, all relational. We have clients coming in as far as roommates going to college, just learning how to communicate and talk with one another. But yeah, free Lisa. I'm going to send you the link. Lisa, you're going to get all the resources. You're going to have it all. I'm going to, after this live, I will send you the free code so you can have the code. It's not a free code. It's my code. I'm going to send you the code, and then you're going to have your own code, and you can send it to all your family. So every single one of your family members can have it as long as they sign up. They just have to do it. That's free life insurance. Why wouldn't you give your family something? But yeah, any other questions or things like that before I leave? Let me check. All right. Well, thank you. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Wednesday. All right.